Hey everyone, I am your astrologer Wonder Girl, helping you to live in tune with the natural cycles of the moon. This is your astrology horoscope for the new moon in Virgo, which occurs on Saturday, August 27th, 2022 at 4:16 a.m. Eastern Time or 1:16 a.m. Pacific Time. Now, what I think is going on at this new moon in Virgo is that we're trying to continue onwards with some recent actions we've initiated in order to improve our lives. However, we aren't thinking clearly here about these situations because we're too excited about them or too anxious here and are therefore getting lazy and getting sloppy and creating issues perhaps suddenly and unexpectedly, or other people are creating issues perhaps suddenly and unexpectedly that then we're going to have to figure out here how to clean up in some way in order for us to continue onwards with our situations in the best way possible. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. If you want to hear more about that, please stay tuned because we're going to hop into it right now. In order to get started though, what I like to do first is just place it on the chart, what I'm going to be referring to in this video so that you can see it and follow along with me. So let me do that now. This video is for the new moon in Virgo. As a result, I have adjusted this chart accordingly for that new moon. I know that because I've got the sun and the moon both together at the same degree here in the same sign, which is what a new moon is here in Virgo. What is that all about? Well, new moons are all about new beginnings, new energy, and fresh starts, since it is the first moon phase of a new lunar cycle. Here, what new beginning, new energy, fresh start are we getting? Well, Virgo, because that's the sign here that the new moon is in. What is Virgo all about? A few things. Virgo is a Mercury ruled sign. Mercury is a lot about thinking things through here, especially with Virgo being an earth sign in a more detailed, practical, realistic, strategic, disciplined kind of way. Not only that, but I also need to note as well that Virgo has a lot to do with healing things, fixing things, or just making things healthy, since it is a sign correlated to health and to doctors and to all of that. So what does that mean to me? What that means to me is not only at this new moon in Virgo are we getting a boost here to really think through our situations and whatever is going on in our lives in a more detailed, disciplined, strategic kind of way, but we're getting a boost to think through these things so that we can either continue onwards with our situations in a healthy way and make them even healthier after this point, or fix anything that is not healthy within our situations and that is not where it needs to be here as we move forward. Okay, in addition to that, I should also note as well that Virgo is a lot about work, effort, if you will, here also being an earth sign, which does tend to deal with tangible reality here, and also being a sign correlated to our job as well and our daily routines. So not only is this new moon in Virgo about us thinking through our situations in a more detailed, disciplined, strategic, practical kind of way so that we can either continue them on a healthy trajectory or fix them if they're not, but we're also trying to figure out what work still has yet to be done here in order to maneuver our situations forward in the best way possible. Okay. So that, I think, is all that's coming to me for the moment about the big themes here of this new moon in Virgo. Now, before I move forward to explain more detailed and more specifically here what this new moon is about, you know me, I do like to go backwards in time just for a little bit here before I go forwards. And I like to go backwards in time here just to give you more of the context of how we got here and of why those themes I just described are now coming up to be felt, lived through, and experienced. Okay, and to go back in time, I'm just going to hit like a few random points here in the past. And I think I'm going to start very, very briefly back again at 2020, because in 2020, we had a very significant alignment around the first few months of the year. I want to say January to April here. Let's put it at April, but of 2020, which was 2 years ago now. Around that time, we had Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter all come conjunct here in the sign of Capricorn. That's a rare alignment because Saturn and Pluto don't come conjunct that often, about every 35 years, and not always with Jupiter there. So very rare and very significant. What was significant about it? Well, that alignment was about us all of a sudden realizing that we need to make big Jupiter change Pluto in the structures of our life, Saturn, here, because our life was not good and not where we wanted it to be, and hadn't been, I think, for many years and decades prior to that. Here, not only was April of 2020 us realizing, shoot, something in our life is not good and we need to change it and get rid of it here and to restructure our lives, but I think it was also us starting that process, starting to actually make the changes here to fix our lives and anything we didn't like in it that was uncomfortable so that we can move on. Okay. Because we did that in April of 2020, we then got 2 years later, it was a long process here to this year, to April of 2022 at a new moon solar eclipse in Taurus that it is that we had right about here. Okay. And at that new moon solar eclipse in Taurus a few months ago this year, I think we finally started to feel as though we had overcome this old stuff we didn't like in 2020 and had created a new and better life for ourselves. It was very basic, very simple. Wasn't a full-fledged new life, but a very basic new experience for ourselves that was starting to manifest in a more tangible way that we could see, touch, and feel, which I thought was very, very nice. Things starting to come together a little bit, which I liked. But even though things started to come together here, April of 2022, earlier this year here in a new way, I think we really struggled after that here, really moving this new and better experience of life forward, especially 2 weeks after this at the lunar eclipse, which was in Scorpio right here in May of 2022. What we realized at that time in May of 2022 is that we were struggling to move this new and better experience of life forward, and that we were struggling really to move it forward because we were still trying to do the new experience of life by old behaviors from the old chapter that we had been trying to escape. And the old behaviors were ones that were really about pushing things and forcing things and changing things in a very tumultuous way, and either relying or depending on or being too intertwined with relationships and spending a lot of money here in regards with all of that as well. Okay, not only did we realize in May of 2022 that we were trying to move a new chapter in life forward and couldn't, because we were still doing things by old behaviors, pushing, forcing relationships, spending money, all of that. But we also realized that we needed a new behaviors as well, because new chapters in life need new behaviors, and building something needs different behaviors than tearing something down. We also realized that these new behaviors were behaviors that were slow, stable, secure, more self-reliant, not with the relationships here, and more thrifty, where we're saving more money here as we move forward from here on out. And I do believe that even though we started to understand that in May of 2022, it took us quite a few months to really get that through our head and address a lot of the fears and the concerns and the issues here surrounding that that was going on. Okay, and because we realized it in May, but it took us a few months to fully get it, we then get to July, right? Last month, yes. July of 2022 at the new moon in Leo right here, while we had an interesting conjunction of Mars, Uranus, and the North Node going on in Taurus at that same time. And in July of 2022, what I think we realized is that we finally have got more of this new way of life through our heads. We finally have started to get that we need to go about life in a slow, stable, secure, self-reliant, and thrifty way. Not only did we realize that in July of 2022, but I think we also felt ready as a result to initiate more actions in our lives to improve it. And I think things we really wanted to do earlier this year in April, so that we could finally begin to take this new and better experience of life and move it forward and make it better and add more things on top of us in the ways that it is that we might like here, which I think for the most part, over the course of the past 4 weeks has gone pretty well. And because that has gone pretty well for the most part over the course of the past 2 weeks, we now get to the new moon in Virgo here, August, of course, of this year, of which this video is for. And what we're trying to do now is think through our situations more about what we've recently initiated here, so that we can either fix something that may have recently gone awry or continue them onwards this healthy trajectory, putting in a little bit more time and effort here in order to make these good things manifest. Okay, and that's it. That's the big picture, I would say, context of what is going on here at this time. Because that's all I'm going to say there, I'm just going to repeat that one more time here before we move forward, so that you can get a better idea of what I think is going on. So let me do that. What I think is going on, the big picture here of this new moon in Virgo here is that we have recently initiated something in our lives that's important to us, to take it to the next level. And we're just trying to think about it and what we've initiated so that we can keep it on a healthy trajectory, fix anything that's not healthy, and put more time and effort into making it a success. Okay, that's it. Because that's all that I want to say about the general themes, I'm now going to go into more details about this new moon in Virgo, the strengths and weaknesses, and how it's going to play out. And to do that, I'm going to talk about the specific aspects here that the new moon itself is making and that is happening at the same time of the new moon. And to do that, I'm going to start, with one that the new moon itself is making. In order to start, though, I'm just going to place it on the chart. Okay, here's the new moon in Virgo that we have at 4 degrees. And the first alignment I want to talk about is it's in a square here to Mars in Gemini. Okay. Now this is a little bit difficult that's going on. It's a little bit difficult here because it's a square, which is hard, and because it's Mars as well, which is a malefic planet and tends to bring challenges here, especially when it's touching such a sensitive planet or luminary like the moon, which doesn't typically tend to get along with Mars. So this is very difficult. In what way is this difficult? Well, I should say here, where do I want to start with this? I should say here that both of these signs are Mercury ruled, both Gemini and Virgo. But even though they're both Mercury ruled here, they do Mercury in a very different way, because one is air, one is earth, and they square each other. And because both of these all of these planets are Mercury ruled signs, which is Mercury in a different way. And Mercury is about the mind, the way that we think. I think our thinking is a little bit unclear here. I think our thinking is all over the place or very unfocused, or if it is focused, it's focused on the wrong things here that are not going to be the most helpful for our situation at this time. Not only do I think this is bringing a lot of thoughts in our mind that are just unclear and unfocused or not focused on the right thing, but when you get so much mental energy and you're in the head, you're not grounded. So we can also be feeling a little anxious, a little nervous, or maybe even a little too excited about things that is going on here. That can be quite frustrating in some kind of way as well. Now, why? Let me start there. Why are we overthinking, or why is our mind all over the place? Why are we unfocused? Why are we anxious and nervous? Well, with Mars and Gemini, I should note, which is going to have an unusually long stay there because it's going to go retrograde in this sign at the end of the year. I think what's happening is that we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're getting ahead of ourselves here, especially with Gemini being quick-witted, sure, but also the last sign of a season. And so is Virgo, right? The mutable signs are last signs of seasons here. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here and either thinking we're done with our situations when we're not, or wishing we're done when we're not as well, causing us to act weird, to overthink things, underthink things, be unfocused as well. So what that means to me here, I guess to bring it together so far, is that at this new moon in Virgo, we've initiated something already that's important to us, and we're really trying to think it through so that we can make sure that it's going in a good trajectory and in a healthy trajectory in the ways that it is that we need. But even though we've initiated something and we're trying to think it through so that we can improve it, the thinking isn't going right. The thinking isn't going right. We're overthinking, we're underthinking here, we're not focused, or we're focused on the wrong stuff that's happening. We're anxious, nervous, and are overexcited here, creating a lot of mental issues. And the reason why we're doing that here is because we're wishing our situation was done, or thinking our situation is done when it's actually not. We still need more time to finish what we started a month ago. And maybe I should say now we still need till November, the eclipse season of this year, in order for that to complete. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention here, also aspecting this new moon. Okay, this new moon is not only in a square to Mars, but it's also over here in a quincunx to Jupiter and Aries. This is also a little bit difficult here because a quincunx is not a helpful aspect, because it's an aspect between two planets, or a few planets here, in signs that just don't see eye to eye and that just don't get along. So this is very hard. What is the difficulty here? Well, Jupiter, when it's going well, which is not, is about wisdom and understanding here. And Aries is a lot about our identity, who we are, and also about our actions, being a Mars-ruled sign, and how we do things from here on out. So what does that mean to me? Well, to bring it together so far and continue with the story, what it means to me is that at this new moon in Virgo here, we're really doing a lot of thinking about our situations and something that we've recently initiated so that we can improve it and continue it on a healthy trajectory. However, we're not thinking straight. We're not thinking clearly about our situation and about what's going on here, because we're thinking we're done when we're not, or wishing we're done when we're not, or getting ahead of ourselves here and are anxious and nervous and overexcited about it. And because we're trying to improve our situations, but we're not thinking clearly here, we're not understanding our situation. We're not understanding our situation, and we're not being wise about our situation and what we need to do next and how we need to do it here. And I need to say, with the Virgo being very exacting, we're missing important steps and we're getting sloppy. We're getting a little lazy and we're getting a little sloppy here with our behaviors and missing important details and important steps here. That is uncomfortable. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention here. Not in particular with this new moon, but happening around the same time of it. And that's going to be Uranus going retrograde in Taurus in the days or so before this new moon in Virgo, but that we're still feeling at this time. Okay, this is unpleasant here. Why is this unpleasant? Because Uranus is in the sign of Taurus, a sign it doesn't really like to be in here. And also because when a planet goes retrograde, it can be a little difficult, especially in the hours and days surrounding it. Because when a planet changes directions, it brings a lot of focus, a lot of attention, and a lot of energy, way more than usual here to that planet as it appears to stand still in the sky. That can just be a little much for us to handle. So this to me is not that great of a thing. What negative thing is this? Well, when Uranus goes negatively here, it can bring even more anxiety, even more overexcitement, even more nervousness. Not only that, but it can bring acting out, we or the people we're connecting with, suddenly and unexpectedly, Uranus, in unhealthy ways that are impulsive, that are reckless, that are hasty here as we move forward, because there's this overexcitement here that is going on that may not be the best for our situations here, with it being in Taurus and for what we've been trying to do since in April and especially a month ago in July. So what that means to me now to continue to bring it together for you so far with this added alignment is that what's happening at this new moon in Virgo is that we're really trying to think about our situations and something that we've recently initiated in our lives so that we can keep it on a healthy trajectory in the ways that we need, but we're really having difficulty thinking about it, especially in a clear and focused way and with putting everything in the proper perspective. And we're really having a difficulty thinking about it because I think we're thinking we're done, we're getting ahead of ourselves and thinking we're done with our situation when we're not, or wishing we're done with our situation when we're not here. And because we're trying to think things through, but we're not thinking it through clearly because of all this other stuff going on, I think we're lacking understanding about our situation and clarity about our situation and what we're meant to be doing after this point here. And we're missing important steps, skipping important information, I think, and getting a little sloppy here and lazy. And because we're not thinking things through and we're missing important information, or at least not thinking clearly and getting sloppy and lazy, we or the people we're connecting with who may be experiencing this are doing things suddenly and unexpectedly in unhealthy, hasty ways, reckless, impulsive, that may be sabotaging now our situations or creating a huge mess to clean up. Okay. And if you're not sabotaging your situations or experiencing someone else that's sabotaging them, then you may be very tempted to kind of skip ahead here. That could be a bit of a challenge, especially too because of the next alignment that I want to mention here, also happening around the time of this new moon in Virgo. And that's going to be Venus here in Leo, making an opposition here with Saturn in Aquarius. Okay, this is also a difficult alignment here because it is an opposition and because Saturn's involved. What is the difficulty here? Well, Saturn does tend to bring feelings of being stuck, feeling restricted, feeling held back, especially from our future with it being in Aquarius, and from us being free to just be ourselves and kind of chill a little bit and be who we are. And Venus does have to do with our own sense of self-worth, but also with relationships and money too. That's unpleasant. Okay. That can bring a lot of uncertainty. So what does that mean to me? Well, to continue bringing it together now with this added piece, what's going on at this new moon in Virgo is that we're really thinking through something that we recently initiated so that we can figure out how to move it forward better in an even healthier way after this point. But we're struggling to really think it through and to focus or to think through in a clear way with a proper perspective because we're getting ahead of ourselves and thinking our situations are done when they're not, or wishing that they're done when they're not here. And because we're not thinking clearly and are getting ahead of ourselves here, we're not really understanding what exactly is happening in our situation and the actions that are required of us here, and we're either missing important information, skipping important steps, or just getting sloppy and lazy, and not following through with these things with the way that we need. And because of that, we or the people that we're connecting with are either getting tempted to sabotage our situations or are actually sabotaging our situations by acting out suddenly and unexpectedly and really reckless unhealthy here in hasty ways. And because of that, we're now feeling very stuck and frustrated and unsure of what to do next here, and uncomfortable within ourselves, doubting ourselves, lacking stability, and maybe even mad, angry at other people, especially if someone else sabotaged the situation, or now there's a whole issue that's going on there. So there could also be some arguments here as well that could not be that great. Okay. And because that's a huge issue that we've just witnessed, I'm now going to give you some advice here on how to handle that. And I think the advice is going to be a result of the next and the last alignment or two I'm going to mention in this video. And the next and the last alignment is going to be Mercury here in pre-retrograde shadow in Libra, where it'll go retrograde in the next few days, here making a trine to Mars in Gemini. Okay, I want to say that this is a little bit of a helpful thing. To say it's a very helpful thing is a bit of an overstatement, but it's a little bit of a helpful thing here, because I do consider trines a little bit more positively than not here. What is the helpful thing about this? Well, Mercury is about thinking here, and Libra is a lot about thinking through things from a more calm place, a more balanced place, if you will. It's also a little bit of a slower sign here, about giving ourselves more time here in order to think some things through that is going on, and to also gather information. Gemini will do that, gather information here, and also with the Libra to weigh out information about our situation, about what's going wrong here, and about our next steps. Not only is it about that, but with Mercury about to go retrograde here, I think it's also about us redoing or fixing, reworking, rethinking something that's recently occurred in order to do it better, do it more right, with the Virgo influence, especially because Mercury is going to retrograde back into Virgo here as we move forward, and with the Libra to kind of smooth over any conflicts that it is that we have recently had here. So what does that mean to me? Well, to bring it together, again, what this means to me is that at this new moon in Virgo here, we're really trying to think through something that we've recently initiated in our lives to make sure that it's going on or continues on a good and healthy trajectory from here on out. However, it is very difficult for us to think them through in a proper way with the clarity that it is that we need, because we're getting ahead of ourselves here and wishing we were done with our situations, or thinking that we're done with our situations when they're not here. And because we're not thinking clearly and getting ahead of ourselves, I think we're not putting the pieces together of our situation and of what's going on, and are missing important steps, missing important details, not doing things correctly, or getting sloppy and lazy here. And because of that, we're either tempted to sabotage our situations, or are actually sabotaging our situations, perhaps suddenly and unexpectedly here, or other people are sabotaging our situations as well, suddenly and unexpectedly, by being reckless, hasty, etc., which is making us feel really stuck, restricted, unable to move forward, uncertain of what to do next, mad at ourselves, and also very mad at other people if they sabotage our situations here and in arguments with them. And because that's what's going on, what really needs to happen, I think, at this new moon is that we need to just give ourselves more time to think things through, more extra time to think things through. Even when you think you've thought it through, give yourself more extra time to think things through and to slow down your situation so that you can do it. Not only is the advice to slow down your situations here, before you sabotage here, or after they've been sabotaged, either way, to give yourself more time to think things through here about your situation. But I think you also need to calm yourself down as well here, so that you can think things through from a more balanced here and calm place as well. Okay, I think that's what needs to happen in order for you to move forward. Okay, what else do I want to say? And I think that from us slowing down, to think things through about our situation even more than might be necessary, or we might feel a lot is necessary, but even more than we might feel is necessary, and to calm down. What do I think that's going to yield? Maybe I need to go more into that. What is that thought process going to yield? Well, I think that thought process from us slowing down is going to yield an insight here that we need to fix our situation, Okay, especially if we screwed something up or it was sabotage, we need to go back to fix our situation here. I also think we're going to realize that we need to go back to fix our situation with the Taurus influence to be more slow, more stable, more secure, more self-reliant, not dependent on other people, more self-reliant here within our own selves, and more thrifty, where we're saving more money and put in more of the time and effort for that to occur. I think we're also going to realize as well with the Libra influence that we need to smooth over any conflict that recently occurred. And I say smooth over intentionally. I don't mean solve any conflict with a relationship. It's not going to get resolved until next lunar month after the new moon in Libra sometime, but just to smooth it over here temporarily while we fix some stuff that we need until later. Not only is that part of what the thinking is going to help us do, but it's also going to help us with the Mars and Gemini. Also, not a pre-retrograde shadow yet, but going to enter pre-retrograde shadow a week or so from now. It's also going to help us extend our timeline. Gemini kind of has to do with like highways and pathways and things like that. It's going to help us extend the timeline of events here, so that we're not getting ahead of ourselves, and so that we can push the final outcome out a few more weeks and months till November sometime, especially November, but possibly even after when it comes to these situations. Okay. So that's what I need to say there. Maybe just to repeat that one more time, because I kind of muddled like a bunch of advice here up at the end. I'm going to do that now. What I think is going on here at this new moon in Virgo is that we are really trying to think about our situations and something that we've recently initiated in our lives so that we can keep it on a better and healthier trajectory here to get our intended and desired result here, which is supposed to be good. But even though we're trying to think through our situations here, we're having a lot of difficulty thinking them through in a clear and focused way with an accurate perception of it. And we're having problems doing that because we're getting ahead of ourselves and either thinking we're done with our situation when we're not, or wishing we were done with our situation when we're not. And because we're trying to think things through, but aren't thinking it through clearly for a bunch of reasons, I think we're not understanding our situations properly and our place in it and what we're meant to do next here, and are either missing important details, skipping important steps here, or getting sloppy and lazy here. And because we're missing important details, skipping important steps, getting sloppy and lazy, we're either really tempted to act out hastily and sabotage our situations, or we are suddenly unexpectedly sabotaging our situations, or someone we're connecting with is going through all of this and sabotaging us because we're connecting with them as well. That can be a huge challenge and make us feel really frustrated, stuck, uncertain of what to do now here, and mad and angry, arguments perhaps with people if they're involved here, which is unpleasant. And because this is happening, the advice for this time period and what really needs to go on is that we need to give ourselves more time here to think these things through about our situations here, and to slow them down so that we can do that, and to possibly even remove ourselves from the drama so that we can feel more calm and balanced here within ourselves, and weigh out more facts and information about our experience from a more objective way. And if we can do that, slow our situations down and remove ourselves from them so that we can think more about our situation in a more clear and objective way that's more calm and more balanced, I think we're going to get some important insights here. And I think the important wisdom and answers and insights that we're going to receive here is that either we're not done yet going slow, stable, secure, self-reliant, thrifty in our situations, or that we need to rework them after what recently happened to go back to being slow, stable, secure, thrifty, and self-reliant, and put more time and effort into that here, and that we need to smooth over temporarily any conflict we just had to buy ourselves more time to get our ducks in a row until next month here, until after the new moon in Libra, and that we need to extend our timeline and our expectations for when we expect to be done with our situations, so that we're not getting ahead of ourselves and tripping over our own feet here, and so that we can do things correctly from here on out. And I think the correct timeline for when we finish our situations to a certain extent is probably November sometime, but potentially even could be at some point next year. March and April look very significant of next year as well. Okay, a lot of things are going to change there with planets changing signs, of course. Pluto and Saturn in March and April as well. Okay, and that's it. That's what's going on here this at this new moon in Virgo. Okay. Because of that, I guess, like normally I do, right? Normally I do say a few more things about this new moon in a more conversational way. What do I want to say here about this new moon? To kind of just, just give a few other thoughts. Okay. The thing that I think I want to say about this time period and what's going on in our lives is that our I think whatever we're initiating in our lives and really have been wanting to for the past few months, and especially have in July, is going actually pretty well. I think it's been going pretty well. I think the biggest issue with our situations right now is not that they're going badly. It's just that we, or the people that we're connecting with, are getting ahead of ourselves, thinking we're done when we're not, or wishing we're done when we're not, and missing important steps, getting slappy, getting lazy here, and sabotaging the situations that are happening. So I think that's maybe the first thing I should make clear. Whatever we're initiating to improve our lives is fine. Here, we're just sabotaging it, or the people we're connecting with are sabotaging it here, or we're tempted to sabotage it if we're not, and we need to not do that or fix it now and fix the issue here. Okay. What does the sabotage look like? Maybe let's talk about that. How are we sabotaging our situations? Well, if you've been watching my videos, especially since a little bit of last year, November of last year, but especially like April of this year with the solar eclipse in Taurus, this new thing that we're initiating in our lives to improve it needs to be done in a slow, stable, secure, and self-reliant way. That was true in April. It was true in all my other horoscopes since April. It's still true now, and it's going to continue to be true, I think, until at least November, when we have a solar eclipse in Scorpio, right? And Scorpio is a little bit of a faster sign. I know it's fixed, but it's Mars ruled, is like a little bit of a faster sign here that's going on. So another point that I need to add here is that the way we need to go about our situations is slow, stable, secure, and self-reliant here, and thrifty, where we're depending on ourselves and we're saving money. So what we're sabotaging here is that we're not doing that. What we're sabotaging at this time, or tempted to sabotage, or other people are sabotaging us, is that we're going back on it. We're not going slow. Instead, we're doing the opposite of that, fast. We're going back to being fast. We're not being stable. Instead, we're taking on too much too soon, more than we can handle, which is creating chaos. Okay, we're not being self-reliant. Instead, we're focusing too much on other people and what they can do for us and what they are and aren't doing. And we're not saving money here. We're going back to spending it here and creating all of these crazy situations. Okay, so maybe that's what I need to say to bring this together. What's going on, to repeat this portion now, is that we've recently initiated something in our lives in order to improve it. It actually is going well, but even though it's going well, we're getting ahead of ourselves, thinking we're done when we're not, or wishing we're done when we're not, and therefore sabotaging our situation. And a perfectly good situation, or people are sabotaging it for us. And the way that we're sabotaging our situation is by doing the opposite of slow, stable, secure, self-reliant, and thrifty, which is to go fast, depend too much on other people, spend too much money here, or take on too much too soon, more than we're ready to handle. Right? Okay. That's the way we're sabotaging, because our situations are still so new, right? We just changed our lives in 2020 to be different, and we just entered a new life in 2022, April of this year. They're so new. They're like little babies. They're still forming. They're still forming. And when you've got a new situation on your hands that's still not fully formed here, that's still kind of mushy, you don't want to go fast and take on too much too soon, because that's going to stifle the new life from being born in a healthy way. So do you see, that's what's going on, and that's what we're doing wrong. We're going too fast, too soon, taking on too much when we don't have the foundation yet in a new chapter of life, or the skeleton hasn't fully been formed enough in order to support all of this stuff. Okay. And because that's what's going on, and that's how we're sabotaging the situation, how do we fix it? How do we fix the situation now that we're sabotaging? Well, we fix it by recalibrate, by taking a minute, right? By taking a minute to come to our senses here and to calm down and to be more objective about our situations here, and to realize what's going on, and then to recalibrate back to being slow, stable, secure, self-reliant, and thrifty, to recalibrate back to that. And internally within our internal perspective and posture, and externally with our situations, if they've been sabotaged or if we mess those up, to recalibrate and rework those back to slow, stable, secure, and self-reliant manners here, and thrifty manners, and to give ourselves more time and effort for that to complete, and to smooth over any snafus that we made, and to push out, to smooth over any snafus temporarily while we fix this stuff and while we get ourselves back in order and get these things on a better trajectory. Okay. Okay. Yes. What else do I want to note? And we need to continue being slow, stable, secure, self-reliant, thrifty after now, and then after this point till November. Okay. What else do I want to note? Because some of us, maybe I need to linger on this, because some of our situations do involve relationships, and either we have sabotaged a situation that involves another person, or they have sabotaged us in a lot of ways, there could be a lot of arguments going on here. Okay, how do you deal with these arguments? Okay, the way to deal with these arguments, especially with Mercury and Libra, is not to make them worse, is not to feed into the flames here, because there is a huge potential for that. With the Virgo, with the Mars and Gemini, there's a huge potential to feed into these arguments and to just keep arguing and keep talking, and for it to not go anywhere here, especially with Mercury in pre-retrograde shadow. So if some of you are in situations here that have been sabotaged, that do involve a person, if they don't, it's fine. If they don't, it's fine. Do what I said. If they do involve another person here, then I want to be more specific about what might help you in your situation. And the way to handle that situation is to not feed the flames, is to not continue the argument here, but to find some kind of solution here with it, and to smooth over anything that recently happened. I don't mean ignore something that recently happened. Something needs to be fixed. So I don't mean ignore it. Fix what recently happened here, but to kind of smooth over it. What does it mean to smooth over it? Well, what it means to smooth over it is, for, especially with the Virgo influence, Virgo is very humble. Well, the way to smooth over it is to take accountability for it, for each person's part and what they did wrong and what they could do better. Okay, I think that's a way to smooth it over, not only, and be humble about it. Not only is that the way to smooth it over, right? To fix it, be humble about it, all of that. I think another way to smooth it over here is to not expect other people to give you, to fix it for you, but for each person, whether it was fair or not with the Mercury retrograde in Libra, for each person to take some onus on themselves to help also fix the situation in the ways that it needs. Okay. Especially, again, Virgo has a lot to do with humbling yourself, and helping fix things even if you don't feel, like it's fair or like you should. So I think that's what I want to say there. Not only, right, like if there was something else going on in the astrology, like if we had Aries in a better position right now or something, or if the solar eclipse in Scorpio had already occurred, I might tell you to lay into these people, like give them hell, right? The Aries and the Scorpio will give people hell. And sometimes people need that. Sometimes people need to be yelled at. Okay. But this is not one of these times that I'm going to recommend that. Maybe a month from now or 2 months from now, I might recommend that. But for now, if you're in a conflict with a person because either you screwed it up or they screwed you up, here, fix it. You or they, fix it, and fix it in a humble way here, where each person takes responsibility for what they did and didn't do. And then once you go back to fix it in a humble way where each person takes responsibility, don't blame, don't name call, don't continue. Both of you, whether you did it or not, and whether it's fair, I think should help to fix the situation. Okay? Because the Virgo will do that sometimes. The Virgo can be very service oriented. I didn't cause the problem, but I'll help you fix it. And I think that that's part of what needs to be done. Not only that, but I think that any argument especially with the Libra, needs to either have a temporary truce, or any argument needs to be delayed until like picked up later, especially a month from now after the new moon in Libra, 4 weeks from now at that full moon in Aries, right? Which can lay into people a little bit here. No, a lot can lay into people a lot. 6 weeks from now. Okay, why am I suggesting this? If you're in an argument with someone and you mess something up or they messed it up, to fix it and to be humble and to apologize, and for both people, no matter who caused it, to suck it up and work it together, and to stop arguing or to postpone or to smooth over any argument until next month. Why? Well, because Virgo is a lot about work and effort, and about putting in more effort to make things happen, to make things fully come together, especially because Virgo is the last sign of summer. It's the last sign of summer before we get to fall, right? Libra starts fall being a cardinal sign, and fall is about the harvest. Fall is about harvesting things. And the harvesting things is about starting to see what the results are, right? And before you harvest something in Libra season, you kind of got to till the crops more, if we want to think about it from an agricultural way, right before fall, when we get the Virgo influence. So if you're in an argument with someone, or they're in an argument with you for something ridiculous that happened, here, fix it. Don't let it stand. Don't let it stand. Fix it. Fix it. The Virgo will fix it. And if you caused it, be humble, apologize, acknowledge your part. And if you didn't cause it, don't get mad. Don't throw a big fit, suck it up, and help them fix it anyways, okay? Especially if you're involved directly in this situation here, and postpone any follow-up argument or follow-up discussion on this thing until another month, 4 to 6 weeks from now, and postpone that here because you need more time if you sabotaged it, and the other person needs more time if they sabotaged it, to get their act together. They need a little bit more time to do it. They need a little bit more time to do it here in order to get their act straight. And also because Mercury retrograde is not really a great time to like resolve arguments, because you're just not going to get resolved. You need to wait till Mercury goes direct, which is also going to be 4 to 6 weeks from now. Okay. And then 4 to 6 weeks from now, then you can circle back on this thing that happened and be like, hey, you didn't do that right. You didn't do that right. You messed something up last month. I gave you a chance to fix it and to prove, and I tried to help you fix it. And now 4 to 6 weeks later, you have or you haven't fixed it, right? Then you can lay into them full moon in Aries and give them hell then, okay? If you need to, because they may fix it and you may not need to by the full moon in Aries, and you may fix it and they may not need to at the full moon in Aries, okay? And why, another reason why, I want to linger on this, why you should wait until then too, is because you need to give people a grace period, especially with the full moon in Pisces coming up soon too, a little bit of a grace period going on, because when someone does something wrong the first time-ish, then it may just be a one-off thing. They may be able to correct it here. And if you get mad at them too soon, oh, you messed something up, this is the first time, then you don't really know their behaviors. But if someone messes something up and you have a little bit of a conversation about it and you fix it, and then they do it again, and then they do it again, and then they do it again, then you have a better case to build against them, which the Libra will also do with the Mercury retrograde in Libra. Then you have a better case against them to be like, one too many. I gave you a chance, one too many. You didn't fix it here, to say 6 weeks from now around the full moon in Aries, if you need to, if it doesn't go right. Okay, so I think that's what I want to say there. Not only does that apply to arguments with people, but I should also note, I'm sensing that that also applies to yourself. So not only is there a need, I think, if there's any sabotage that occurs here with another person, to resolve it, fix it, be humble about it, and both people, whether it's fair or not, work to correct it here and temporarily smooth over any issues for another month, 4 to 6 weeks, to see how they do. But that also applies to yourself. If you sabotage the situation and there's no one else involved, or if you are tempted to sabotage your situation, it also applies to you. Fix your situation. If it involves yourself in an inanimate object, fix your situation, be humble about it here, and give yourself 4 to 6 weeks, a grace period of 4 to 6 weeks in order to get this thing back in shape, in order to get your things slow, stable, secure, self-reliant here, and in order to get your head on straight. Give yourself the 4 to 6 weeks to do it, and see the next 4 to 6 weeks as a little bit of a learning period here. Because there is a potential after the next new moon in Pisces, 2 weeks from now, which I'm going to come back for and I'm going to talk about then, there is a potential here at the new moon in Pisces 2 weeks from now for us to not give ourselves grace, compassion, or faith, or trust and faith in intuition, in the divine to carry us through, and we can actually go the opposite direction. So there's a huge potential 2 weeks from now, as we're fixing these things, for us to actually go the opposite direction and try too hard to fix, right? Especially with the Virgo being about perfection, to try too hard to fix, too hard to get right, because we mess things up, or be too critical of other people. You know, you mess things up then. Are you going to do it now? Oh, I got to double check everything you're doing because you did something stupid earlier. You know, there's actually a tendency to be too hard on ourselves and to expect results too soon, and to lack trust and faith in ourselves or the people we're dealing with to fix our situations, and to overcompensate by doing more, too much, slow, stable, and secure, focusing on every little thing, especially as Venus moves into Virgo, and on being too perfect. So what needs to happen now to kind of get ahead of that energy is, what you need to do now is, yes, if you screwed anything up, fix it, whether it involved just you or another person. Be humble about it, be realistic, smooth anything over here that went wrong, and give yourself and the other person, if you're dealing with them, 4 to 6 weeks grace period to see if they can fix it, and to see if you can fix it here as you move forward. And withhold judgment. That's another Libra word. While Mercury's about to go retrograde, withhold judgment on yourself and on these other people until 4 to 6 weeks from now, so that you don't end up overcompensating and overdoing it and being over perfect and pushing yourself to the bone, which is also going to create a negative effect. Right? Because if you're getting lazy and sloppy and not doing enough, clearly you're not doing enough for your situation to make it move forward in a healthy way. But if you're doing too much, I got to do everything just right, and I got to make sure, and this person's doing something wrong, then you don't give room for magic to happen. Then the experience feels messy. Well, it doesn't feel messy. Then the experience feels miserable here. And then there's also potential for mistakes because you're so worried about these things as well. So you got to give yourself 4 to 6 weeks before you make any final judgments on all this stuff, and just have more trust here that you're going to be fine, and also that your intuition and the divine is going to be able to help you through, after this point, and the ways that you might need, and find ways to give yourself grace and to consistently cultivate that whenever you feel yourself getting overwhelmed. Okay. Okay, and I think that's what I have to say. Now let me look at your inside degree here for this time period. I like to look at your inside degree here to give you someone else's opinion on the astrology here other than my own, and to give you more information about what this lunar event may be about here. So I've got them up on the screen. The inside degrees were not written by me. They were written by someone else named Elias Lonsdale, who I believe channeled the meanings for each of the degrees of the zodiac from spirit. Okay. I like to look at the degree of the new moon because, of course, that is what we're doing here. The new moon is in Virgo, and it is at 4 degrees. Okay. I should also note as well that I think I like 5. I guess I like them all, actually. So fine, maybe we'll read them all very quickly. Let's start with Virgo 4 because that is the degree. Yeah, 3. Sometimes I'll read a few before and after. Painstaking. Okay. Yeah, let's do 3, 4, and 5, right? Because it's a 4. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, Virgo 3, I've got it up on the screen. It says painstaking labors in several different planes of existence, the mind being restrung slowly and systematically, and by erosion of what was assumed or taken as a given. Multiple worlds crying out for refinement, repair, repolarization, and release. So what does that mean to me? It means to me that there was something perhaps that was assumed or taken as a given about our situation, which I think is that it was done or finished or we don't need to work anymore. Here, that isn't correct, right? Assumptions usually are not correct. Sometimes they are, but not in this case. And because we assumed something or took something as a given, that was not true. That was based on a false premise, which is that our situation is done when it's not. We now need to fix it. We now need to restring slowly and systematically these situations that we've in here to refine them and to repair them and to release anything that isn't working, okay? And I think we do need to do it in a sensitive way, like a sensitive way that's more conscious now of our behaviors and of the reality of our situation here, especially with the next sentence. I think we also need to do it as well, attending to the subtle, underlying echoes and resonances. Okay. So that's what I'm getting here so far from 3 degrees Virgo. We made assumptions about our situation and where we were that were not accurate here. And I think we had things get a little bit out of control. And because of that, now we need to repair, refine, repolarize, restring these situations. And we need to do it in a more sensitive way that's a little more conscious of our situation and what's actually happening here and a little bit more in tune with the subtleties of this stuff. Here and some of the little details that are going on, okay? Because I think that reading the next sentence is going to help us. It's going to help us realign our situations with a higher purpose and get more in touch with like the truth of our situation and what's going on within us. Because the next sentence says this: inside the spiral there lives a knowingness and beingness in tune with earth and heaven, and it is rhythmically synchronized with the ancient in the future, the forgotten in the unknown, just there to be with the transition and stay in touch throughout. So yeah, I think that's a good degree here. We made false assumptions about our situations. Now we got to fix them, repair them, whatever, with more of a fine-tuned sensibility to the subtleties and more consciousness here as we move forward. And if we can do that, I think it's going to help us to align these things in a better way and just feel more in touch with ourselves and with the divine, okay? But even though that is a fine thing, I need to note, especially looking at 4 degrees Virgo here, which is the actual degree of the new moon, that there is, again, a tendency once we do that, even though I think I like 3 the best, to swing to an extreme 2 weeks from now around the full moon in Pisces. Because look at this next degree. 4 degrees Virgo says, trying exceedingly hard to fit perfectly within prescribed standards and the attitudes and values that are traditional and conventional, intent on memorizing each gesture, every turn of phrase. You are almost hysterically straight and narrow, outwardly in juxtaposition to how you really see, feel, and respond to things. Inside, there is a quavering, an intensely alive and overwhelming primal life force generator, but any way you try to put it forth is troubling. So what I'm sensing here between 3 and 4 is that at this new moon in Virgo, which is what this video is for here, we have made false assumptions about our situation. And I think how much we have left to do and how far we are along in the process here, which has caused us to mess it up, or want to mess it up, that now we have to rework, refigure out, refine, repair in some kind of way by being more sensitive to the details, to the little things that are going on and more conscious of it, which is going to help us actually fix our situations. But as we fix these situations by being more fine-tuned to the subtleties, what we could have a tendency to do, especially as we move on 2 to 4 weeks from now, is to go overboard, and be too hard on ourselves because we screwed things up. To be too hard on ourselves or to be too hard on the other people in our lives here, and then to not leave room for grace, for emotions here, and to be super straight and narrow and like hard driving. Like there's also a potential to be that way, and to not make room for the other sides, the more forgiving, sentimental sides of life as well, that you're going to need to watch. You're going to need to watch here. Especially to look at Virgo 5, the degree after the new moon. It says this: the Cassandra complex, warning self and world of what will go wrong, cautioning, tempering, and suppressing. You can afford no mistakes. The mind is set upon doing it just right from the start to finish. When there are snags and hitches, you hit the roof with qualms and doubts, the self against the self, the mind standing over the spontaneous one and saying, no, you can't go that way. Forebodings are a self-fulfilling prophecy. So at this new moon in Virgo, you gotta fix something's not right within your perspective or actually within your situation. You gotta fix it here and rework it by putting in the work and the effort to do it in a humble way here and paying more attention to the details and the subtleties of what's going on. But beware, there's a tendency for this attention to the detail and the subtleties to get out of hand and for you to take it way too far to the total other extreme of trying too much and working too hard and being too perfect and being too strict because of a lot of guilt of what just happened that has a real potential, that is going to be an issue that we're probably going to be talking about 2 weeks from now at the next new moon in Pisces that you need to watch out for. And the way to watch out for that, I think, is to simply be aware that that's a tendency here and to have more grace for yourself, more trust in the divine, and to give yourself more time, here before you make any final judgments on things. Okay. That's what I'm going to say there. To give you a few examples of what could have recently occurred, is that what could have recently occurred here is that some of you, say, could have initiated some kind of romantic relationship here at the beginning of July that you thought was going to be really good for you. Well, what could happen around this new moon in Virgo? And you could have, I should have known, you could initiate a new romantic relationship in a slow, stable, secure, self-reliant, thrifty way. Well, what could happen around the new moon in Virgo is that you could start to get hasty with the relationship and move too fast with it, get more intimate than the two of you are actually ready to be intimate, than the two of you actually know each other here, or start to talk about like moving in and getting married and having a family together when you just met. That could be a huge issue that could make one or both of you feel very uncomfortable once you snap out of it here, that then needs to be reworked. That could be kind of an issue that the two of you are going to have to humble yourselves to kind of go back to fix, to go back to being slow, stable, secure, and to kind of smooth over until next month to see whether or not you really like each other and whether or not this is really working at that full moon in Aries. Okay. Another way this could go is like maybe some of you like launched a new product for your business, or say like got a promotion at work or something here in July, and or worked on some kind of project at work that's important to you, and it could have been going very well. But what could happen at this new moon in Virgo is that you or a person on your team or whatever could sabotage that promotion, that project, or that product you're launching here by you skipping steps or them skipping steps and wanting to push up timelines to get it out the door faster and things like that. That could be really hard. That has now like backfired because something's not where it needs to be with the project, with the product that's going on, that you're then going to have to be humble and rework. Go to your boss or your person on your team. You're going to have to be humble here, and you're going to have to work together to like rework this project that now has gone wrong here, and to fix it and to extend the timeline on when it will complete, on how to do that. And you're going to need to give yourself and your team members grace another 4 to 6 weeks here in order to fully fix whatever this thing is now and get it on an even better trajectory. So that could be things there that could go on. Okay, so I think that's what I'll say there. Obviously, there's a lot more examples of how it could play out, but I think that's all I'm going to give you for now. Now let's go ahead and let's pull your card for this time period. Your card is the Queen of Cups here reversed. And at the bottom of the deck, we've got the Nine of Swords reversed. Okay, so the Nine of Swords upright, excuse me. The Nine of Swords is a lot about worry, anxiety, fear, nervousness here. And I think I see this going both ways. I think we're feeling at the very beginning of this new moon in Virgo worried and anxious or whatever about our situations and how far along we are and when they're going to complete. And then once we sabotage or are tempted to sabotage the situation, I think we then on the other side feel worried and afraid of like, what did we just do? How did I just do this thing? How did this just happen? How do I fix it? That could be going on here. That's hard. And I think that what's missing from both sides of the equation is the Queen of Cups, which is reversed. And the Queen of Cups to me is a lot about grace and compassion for ourselves and other people and kindness. Not only that, but it's also about intuition, trusting our intuition or trusting the divine and getting into insights from our intuition and the divine. And it's also as well about understanding emotions, understanding human nature, right? And humans by nature make mistakes, and humans by nature have like a lot of things going on like within ourselves from trauma, from early in life, other things in our life as well. So I think that that's what I'm sensing here. We're worried and nervous about our situations and when they're going to complete here, and also worried and nervous about us messing them up if we are about to or if we already have here. And that's creating a whole bunch of issues because worry and nervous just leads to more worry and nervousness. It's just creating a lot of issues. And because there's a lot of worry and nervousness, leading to more worry and nervousness, I think what needs to happen is that we need to have more grace and compassion towards ourselves and the people that we're dealing with, and forgiveness towards that about these things. And we also need to tune more into our intuition and the divine to help us get these insights here and smooth things over for us. And I think we also need to have just like a little bit more understanding of ourselves and the people that we're connecting with here, and of the human experience, and of the fact that like sometimes we get ahead of ourselves and sometimes we make mistakes, and it's okay, as long as we fix it, and that even some of these things on the surface that are happening this time period may have deeper causes, rooted in the past or in childhood or things, traumas that people are still working through, and to be more aware of that. Okay. Because I think that's going to help us get our situations back on track. Okay. For the next few weeks. Okay. That's going on there. And then 6 weeks from now, say at the full moon in Aries, then maybe you can be a little harsher about things, but do this first here as you move forward, and put in the effort with the 9 of Pentacles reversed here in order to fix these things, because we're not done yet. We're not done yet working to fix this stuff that needs to happen. And I think that's all I'm going to say here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was helpful for you. If you like this video, please like it on YouTube, share it with your friends here, or write a comment below. Also know that I do a whole bunch more videos for horoscopes on my website as well. I post videos like almost every day there as well, wondergirlastrology.com. So please do check that out. Thank you so much. I hope you have a good time period, the best you can, and I'll talk to you on the next video.